We are live, ladies and gentlemen. Actually, there's only ladies in here right now. Maybe in the future there will be gentlemen. But I'm so excited, everybody. Welcome to November's guest interview here inside of Social Society. I am so excited for you guys to hear from one of my longest time best friends, Lauren Donahue. Is that how you say it? Longest time or longest term? I don't know.
We've been friends the longest. Your friend that you've had for the longest time? I don't know.
Yeah, since 2007. So
Yeah.
how about that, y'all? We're about to go to our 20th anniversary reunion.
Wow. That makes my armpits sweat a little bit.
I know my feet are sweating. I just took my shoes off. So we've been knowing each other for a hot minute. Long before either one of us would have considered ourselves to be entrepreneurs or business owners or the titles that we wear today. We never would have saw ourselves calling ourselves or each other that. We've both been on just crazy journeys. And the reason I wanted to bring Lauren in is because over the last 20 years, no, I'm just kidding. I can't say that.
I'm not going to say that anymore. That was the last time we're saying it.
I know. As long as I've known Lauren, just watching her her transformation into the person that she is today, but into the businesswoman that she is today, the way that she serves her clients and her customers, because you're going to hear she's got a couple of different types of businesses. And so the way that she just loves on people and has been able to take her heart for people and her gifts that God has given her and really turn it into a business. I want you guys to hear from her because that's who a lot of you are. And you started your businesses because you knew that you had something inside of you to give to the world, right? And you're part of Social Society and this membership community to learn how to get that message out into the world by using the social media platforms. So today I want this to be motivational for you. I hope you find some inspiration as you're watching with us live or on the replay. Make sure that you write down anything that you feel, right? That's one thing. Like when I encourage people to take notes, don't write down what someone said necessarily, but maybe how what they said made you feel, right? And really reflect on the experience that you're going to have tonight, because I think it can be a breakthrough conversation. I expect for it to be a breakthrough conversation for me, so I hope that for you guys. So Lauren, tell us about you. Tell us about, how you got to where you are today, your background, all the things. And then we'll, like I talked about before we hit live, we're going to just kind of go back and forth a little bit and just kind of share thoughts, ideas, questions I might have for you, but I'll pull some things out. I'll be taking notes. So the stage is yours, my friend.
Awesome. Well, thanks for having me. It has been quite a while that we've known each other. And I followed the yellow brick road from Kansas, where I met Danielle, to California about 15 years ago. So I have been in the Los Angeles area since 2009, which is also wild. And I think when I first came to California, like Danielle said, not sure that I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. I think there was like a time in like middle school when everyone was talking about being astronauts and lawyers and doctors that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I couldn't spell it. Wasn't quite even sure what that was. Maybe I saw some business person and wanted to do that. And then when I got to high school, I did quit the volleyball team to learn golf because I knew that could come in handy in business. So I did know I wanted to go into business, and my degree in college was a business management degree. So I did kind of have an idea a little bit, but of course we have no idea what that actually entails. Literally zero clue. Like, I want to be a business owner. I want to have my own company. I want to build a brand. We have no idea what comes with that. And so it's been awesome over these last 15 years to develop new skill sets. Obviously, some things you learn in college, but really more being out in the world and actually just doing the thing. And I have had my hand in so many different baskets, trying different things to really see what stuck, what landed. And it was actually in 2014 that I had an experience where I got to go live in a cave for 60 days and be stripped of all worldly possessions and really anything and anyone that it was just gone. And so I had this really cool opportunity for stillness, for quiet, for peace, and for a lot of time to think. And it was during that time that I realized I didn't know what my purpose here was. I didn't know, what God was doing with me. I thought, well, if I'm not a professional athlete or a professional musician, then God forgot about me. I don't have any talent. What is my reason for being? Why am I here? And it was in those quiet, still moments that I realized I started going through a couple of things, like asking myself questions. What do you love to do? Right? I love to gather people. I love to bring people together. I love for people to know that their life matters, that they have a reason for being. My grandpa would say raison d'etre. That's French for reason for being. That they know that they have a gift to share with the world. And I wanted to be able to bring that out of them. And I wanted to have safe spaces for people to come and share and know they're never being judged, that it's always a warm welcome hug. The door is always open, all of that kind of stuff. And I had done that with my friends, and Danielle knew that too. Even when Danielle and I lived together, we always had the people over to our place. So we were creating spaces for community, for connection. Yep. And so that was in there from the beginning. It just looks differently, right, as we move it into business. But the heart doesn't change. Our heart was, we wanted to create these awesome spaces for people to connect, become friends, start dating, get married, whatever, right? And so I realized in this cave that that's what I actually love to do, and that is a gift from God too. And to be able to facilitate relationships so we can live in a more connected world is my why, is my purpose. And that landed for me in the cave. I am here to facilitate relationships so that we can all live in a more connected world. And I would say that's the first thing. If you don't know your why, your raison d'etre, the why that makes you cry, right? The one that really like you're going to keep fighting for when things get hard. And I say not if things get hard, but when, because they will get hard. And so planning and preparing for that. But when you have that why that's so strong, like mine is right here on my desk, a picture of my grandpa and my grandma. And I think about him all the time. And it's the same thing he did. He was a coach. He was a mentor. He recruited teams. He was always bringing people together. And so I think about that when I'm trying to plan anything in my life and decide what I want to do with my life. And so I'll share a little bit about the journey and kind of a few of the things that led to what I'm doing now and having my own companies. Is I helped other people build brands and build their companies. I became a franchise owner of F45, which is a fitness company that came from Australia. And so I opened a couple studios in California. And again, what am I doing? Creating spaces for people to come and connect and feel better about themselves, right? Live happier, healthier lives. So I'm still doing that. And then it got to the place where, and we could take this back to the cave too, because in the cave I was unplugged. And I think that that's the reason why I could actually get to that place of realizing my purpose for the first time. Is it was the quietest I've ever been, the stillest I've ever been, and the most disconnected from technology and distractions that I've ever been. So I was like, let's create more unplugged experiences for people. So this really starts the journey to doing what I'm doing today. So I decided I'm going to do free workouts on the beach called Unplugged Mornings. And people have to put their phones in airplane mode, put their phones away. We're going to do a workout, and then we're going to go get coffee, and we're going to pull some positive affirmation cards, and we're going to talk about our life and how we could be supported by each other. So it started with free events, which I recommend to people if they're going to go in the direction I'm about to tell you about. Free events that then went into 1 hour paid events, and I would partner with different gyms and studios, and they would give me the space for free because I was going to bring people into their space, new faces into their space that potentially might sign up for memberships at some point. So then we went to 2 hour events, 4 hour events, and then we started the US tour, and we started popping up in different cities. We even went to Wichita and did an event there, in Portland, Nashville, Dallas, Miami, all over the place. So we probably did at least 20 stops during that time in different cities. And then from there, I was talking to a friend who was like, why don't you just do retreats? Like there's all, you're doing these, 4 hour things all over the place and people want more. And I was like, I'm afraid nobody will sign up. Like, I don't think anybody will sign up for a retreat. You think people would pay for that? And that friend was like, well, I would. So you got one. And that comes to the next lesson. Play for the audience of one.
Yeah.
Seriously show up for one. And that goes back to the days where I was doing these events for free too. If one person showed up, it was worth it. And sometimes that person was me. Sometimes there was goose egg, no people, but I showed up. And instead of being like, oh no, nobody came, I'm going to go home and go to bed, I did the workout. I went for the hike by myself, and I just poured into myself and realized that this is what was for me at that time. Yeah. And I think because I was willing to do that then, when it came to business and charging and all that kind of stuff, I was still willing to play for the audience of one. Being myself again too, right? Like if, hey, nobody's going to sign up for this retreat, I'm going on a vacation. I'm going to go on a retreat by myself. But with that mentality, you're coming from abundance versus scarcity. And so you're not coming from this desperate energy of, I have to get these people signed up. If this doesn't happen, my life's going to fall apart and I'm going to look like a failure. If you from the get-go are like, yo, I'm playing for the audience of one, this is what it's going to look like, then people are going to show up. It's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they will come, right? And that first retreat, we had 25 people at the first retreat, and I was absolutely blown away. And I knew this is the thing I want to keep doing, because you circle up at the end and people start sharing their breakthroughs, their transformation, and then the new friendships, the connections. There are still people from our first retreat that are friends. There's people who got married. There's people who started businesses together. And that is literally why I do what I do. Right. Yeah. And so then from there, I kept hosting retreats, and then people wanted to pick my brain and ask me about how we were selling retreats, how we were making money, all these things. And so I put together a retreat coaching program. And so everything, as you can see, everything just fell into place. It was just the next thing: free events to paid events, to bigger events, higher ticket events, into coaching and teaching people how to do what you just did, right? You just have to be a couple steps ahead of your client to be able to lead them to that place, right? We can't lead people to a place we've never been, but we can sure tell them once we've done it and done it successfully, here are the steps, here's the formula, follow this, and you'll get similar results. So that's how I built that business, the retreat coaching business and retreats as well. And so that's one of the businesses. I don't know if you want me to go into the next one or you have questions.
There's a couple of things that I want to make sure people got in that before we transition to your other company, is knowing your why, right? And the why that makes you cry. Mm-hmm. You know, it's like, I believe we all start a business for I think most people start a business for a bigger reason, and very easily that bigger reason can get overshadowed by the need to make an income. And I've been there, and I operate the worst when I'm operating from a place of I need income. And I operate the best when I'm operating from a place of I'm doing this because this is my why, or the impact behind it, where I'm not even thinking about the paycheck that's going to end at the end of the launch or whatever it is. So making sure that you know your why. And I guess I would encourage you guys, if you don't, if you aren't sure what your why is, or if you don't think that your why is currently evoking any type of emotion, I want you to take some time to journal on that. Grab a journal and just ask yourself, why am I doing what I'm doing? Answer that question, and then just ask yourself, why did that answer? Mm-hmm. If your answer is, I started a social media marketing business so that I can have an impact on small businesses in America and help them to grow. Well, why? Mm-hmm. Because I believe that small businesses are the backbone of our economy. Well, why? Well, because this is what, it's what our country was founded on. And if you start to go multiple layers deep, there's actually a really cool YouTube video on this by Dean Graziosi, and it's the 7 layers deep exercise. By usually the 4th why that you ask yourself, you're going to find like something that's deep rooted. Mm-hmm. And so knowing your why is so important. So I love that's also your motto from your grandpa, and that's beautiful. I love that. So make sure you guys are thinking about that with your businesses. Another thing, I love the concept of playing for an audience of one. Mm-hmm. that's us tonight, right? Like so
Yeah.
far, it's like that. This is it. That we're playing. I'm playing for you right now, girl. You're playing for me, but we're
Yeah.
playing for people that will see this in the
Yeah.
future. But it doesn't matter. We're still. You and I both came to this video call tonight with an expectation that it's going to be a good time no matter what. There's going to be an expectation of breakthrough for both of us. So I love that. And a lot of times when you're starting your social media journey, especially if you have no following,
Mhm.
you really need to make sure that you understand like the bigger picture behind that concept of playing for the audience of one. And then
Yeah.
the thing that leads to the thing, that's my third bullet point from that story is it's like it's almost like stepping stones or
Yeah.
just layers,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And you only need to be a couple of steps ahead of where your client is. Most of my audience and the members in this group are either coaches or they serve clients who they're solving a problem for them, and they really are in that space of only a couple of steps ahead. So to hear you
Mm.
talk about it in that way, because a lot of times as entrepreneurs we try to make sure like before I launch and tell everyone I'm live with my business, I've got all the pieces put together, I'm this master. And it's like you don't have to be an expert necessarily, you just
Yeah.
need to be a few steps ahead. So those are the three main takeaways that I got from that first part. So good. Anything else based on what I just shared? Do you want to follow up on those points at all?
No, I think that was really good. The stepping stones, yeah, it's not, you just have to be able to teach somebody how to do what you did, right? And I think being so transparent through, hey, so we've now hosted 70 retreats and this is what we've generated. But when I first started with my coaching clients 4 years ago or something, it was like more like 25 or 30 retreats. And here is the income that we generated. And here's the retreats where we made 20,000 or 50,000 and here's the ones where we made 5,000, right? And so really being transparent about there's all these different things that can happen, and same thing within your businesses and what the coaches within your community are teaching too. It's, I think, just being so transparent and not trying to pretend like you know everything,
Yeah.
right? Just being like, hey, human to human, here's what I do know, here's how I can help you, but I'm not going to pretend that I have all of these things figured out.
Yep. Love it. Okay. Now let's talk about probably my favorite business because it's coffee.
Yes.
We're
Yes.
there.
Well, and you know what the cool thing about this is, the reason I started the coffee company is because my social media account got hacked. So I was working with a bunch of brands. I promoted all my retreats, all my coaching, everything through Instagram. I wasn't even really focused on building an email list at the time because we didn't need to. We were selling out our retreats from Instagram. So I woke up one morning and it was a week where I had 3 brand deals, like contracts to share about these brands. And my Instagram account was hacked. And I realized in that moment, I can't deliver for these brands, AKA I can't get paid. If I can't promote my retreats on here, like also can't get paid, like how am I going to talk about my business, share about my business when this platform is gone?
Yeah.
And so in the past, this is something that could have really knocked my nervous system out of whack. And I could have been really upset, but I decided to do the opposite of that and be really calm and do the things that help me stay regulated and do my morning routine. So journaling, praying, have my coffee, right? Just all the things that breath work, all that that's good for me. And while I was doing that from a very regulated space, I looked into my coffee cup and I heard my grandpa's voice in the back of my head saying, the cream always rises to the top. And that's something my grandpa did say all the time. A lesson there is repetition equals results. Repetition will get you results. My grandpa said the same things over and over and over. And when you're younger, it's annoying, right? Grandpa, yeah, I know you've already told me this so many times. When you get older, you realize the wisdom that all soaked into my being, all of the things that he said. And so in that moment, that quote, the cream rises to the top, gave me my next business idea. I'm like, well, if all this is gone, say like it's like it got burned to the ground, then what's next? Right? Because I'm not going to quit. I'm not going to give up. And same thing with the retreat business and all that. All kinds of things happened and challenges and obstacles and so many reasons to quit, but I never did. I kept going. And so that's your thing, knowing your why, but then just never quitting when things get hard, because they are going to be hard. And you're working with people, and people have emotions and hormones and all these things.
Yeah.
So you can't take things personal. So all of that to say, keep going, don't give up. And then it's like this, what's next when the rug gets pulled out from you. And I'm sure people experience that over the last few years, of just the rug getting constantly pulled out when they start to get momentum with something else happening in the world. So
Yeah.
think about that you always have the opportunity of a pivot, a powerful pivot. And in that moment, I realized that was going to be mine. I thought, okay, I'm going to start a coffee company. Did I know anything about coffee other than I love coffee? No, literally zilch. I know that anywhere I traveled in the world, I wanted to find the best coffee, and I wanted to go to the best coffee shop, and I knew what tasted good. But did I know what actually went into building a coffee brand, building a coffee business, how the beans are washed, where do you even get the beans from? Like, how is this all going to come together? Right. So what I did is I resourced myself. Right. And a lot of times we think of resources as, money, monetary, but resources are like, who do you know? Right. And who can you talk to, and who can you get on the phone with? Who can you have conversations with? So I started calling everybody I knew, trying to get connections to people in the coffee industry. And I had probably 150 different conversations. I listened to a ton of podcasts. I was reading books, and this was all like in a week. Like, I'm like doing all of this. And most of what I was hearing feedback wise was pretty consistent with, from idea to bag in hand is 1 year. And I already knew that I wanted this company to honor my grandfather. My grandfather had Parkinson's. And I thought, well, since he gave me the idea, and he was still alive at the time, I'm like, since he gave me the idea, I'm going to like give this everything. I'm going all in. I'm focusing on this one thing because I want him to try this coffee and I want it to be Raleigh approved. So it was from idea to bag in hand, me flying to Kansas to have my grandpa taste test was 34 days. So
Wow.
34 days. So when you put your mind to something, when you're determined,
Wow.
you can accelerate your growth. You can accelerate what you're trying to do when you really just focus on one thing. And so I'm talking so many different roasters, so many different coffees were sent to me. I actually blindfolded my friends. I had a blind taste testing. You do not need to blindfold your friends when they're drinking hot coffee. So if anyone wants to start a coffee company, just write, on the bottom of the cup what it is, and then they can just drink it with their eyes open so they don't burn themselves. You live and you learn. First time starting a coffee company. Literally.
That sounds fun. I mean, that sounds fun.
Yeah. So so many taste tests, so many people came over, and my main mission was, I want clean, fresh coffee. I want this tested for molds and pesticides, toxins, everything. I want to make sure that the farmers are taken care of. So if we have to pay a little bit extra, great. I want to make sure that the hands that are creating this, the hands that are sending this over to the US, are taken care of, right? And that their families are taken care of. So I landed with a roaster, and this was a faith-based family that I ended up getting connected to, where their great grandpa, dad, and son were all in the business. And I just felt it was so aligned, and decided to move forward with them. And that's who roasts our coffee. They ship our coffee. We have an amazing relationship, and it's just been so beautiful. And I learned so much about and was educated on the process through that family. So that was really cool, because then I could share that education with our customers. And then, Danielle and I were talking even before this just about your story. And I feel like the coffee company has been successful because I shared my genuine story about why I started this company and how much it meant to me. And I documented everything. I didn't have my main Instagram account, it was gone, but I had an unplugged mornings account with like 100 followers from when I was doing those morning workouts. And I just switched it to Lolly Coffee, which is the name. And if there's questions about that too, we had 4 different names. We had packages and labels printed with different names. We ended up running into trademark issues with the first 3 names. So we started with the Coffee Collective. We changed to Cornerstone Coffee, which is actually, when my grandpa tried it, it was Cornerstone Coffee. So that's the bag that he saw with the Raleigh roast on it. And when I showed it to him and he tried it, I said, "Do you recognize anything?" And he said, "Well, I'm Raleigh, but I don't know who roast is." It was so cute.
So
It was
cute.
so cute, and I still have that bag. And then from there, we changed to Higher Love Coffee, and then we finally landed with Lolly, which is Lauren and Raleigh put together, so we could trademark that. We had
Yeah.
no issues with Lolly Coffee, so that's a whole talk in itself too, of making up a word, having it be easily pronounced, that there's meaning in the word as well. But you won't run into as many trademark infringement things and stuff like that. And you won't have to start over and spend a lot of money printing bags and labels and all of that kind of stuff. So I would just start with a name that you make up that means something to you that you can share with people. But really, as I was saying, I believe that the company's been successful because of the why behind it, the purpose, and the story. And that I was going on that Lolly Coffee Instagram account and sharing the whole process. I had sticky notes. I'm showing them, here's all the different things we're doing. Here's our different meetings. This is how we're getting it washed. This is how we're everything. And then the process of how do you even sell the coffee, right? Like, I'd never done Shopify. So I had to, download a new software, learn a new software. I was taking a course on literally how to use this, how to add your products in there, how to work pricing with shipping and all that. Like, how are you going to weigh it out? So there were so many different things to learn just within that. And then there's more platforms, right? So the whole process is challenging a whole different part of your brain, especially if that's for so long. I hadn't done anything in that world. And actually, I'd never had a product before. So this is the first time I was bringing a product to the market, and you want to differentiate yourself. And so, yeah, it was so wild to change the names, the colors, like so many things
Wow.
changed. And then you just knew, like, it just landed. And with the Lolly, and that was about a year and a half ago now. And yeah, it's been really beautiful. And every single day I'm excited to get up and talk about it and work on the business, and to go to trade shows, and to go to farmers markets, and to go to people's events, and to have the coffee at retreats and create meaningful moments for people to connect. Again, the coffee, it's fulfilling the same why, facilitating relationships so we can live in a more connected world. When we want to meet up with people, hey, let's grab a coffee. Hey,
Yep.
let's connect. Right. So it's still fulfilling that same why. My why didn't change. And I'm able to do that through coffee too.
Yeah, which is so awesome because I do think about that. I'm like, hey, can you get together tonight? You want to get some coffee? It's like at night. Well, what else do you do? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like you don't want to eat dinner. Like it's
Yeah.
always like, hey, you want to get together over coffee? And so,
Yeah.
wow, full circle.
Right.
So
Right. It
beautiful.
still all aligns.
So beautiful. And then just like the thing, it's again, it's that it's a journey. Entrepreneurship, business ownership, growing businesses, growing ourselves, it's all a journey. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things for me that I know I've been not a victim to, but I've had to really work on overcoming is destination disease. Like just being so focused on getting to this point in my business that I completely am oblivious to the little joys of the day, the lessons I can learn, and I think when we recognize that, when I think for myself, when I've been so focused on accomplishing the goal, there's a difference, I think, between having your head down, staying super intentionally focused, like you talk about, to accelerate your growth,
Mm-hmm.
and doing that without intentionalism of
Mm.
like being in the moment too.
Yeah.
That you can keep your head down and be focused and it not produce good results. And I think a lot of that times I think it comes from a place of what's your intent behind it,
Absolutely.
But it's truly all a journey. And I think to kind of just bring this back to social media marketing, that's one of the most frustrating things that I hear from business owners as far as like trying to get their messaging out there, because social media is it's kind of seen as one of the easiest things to do, but yet it's the most frustrating
Yeah.
because there's just so much noise on social media that you have to break through
Hmm.
to reach your potential audience, which is out there, but
Yeah.
how do you get in front of them? And so that's a journey too. And
Hmm.
I think when you commit to the journey as a whole, you commit to the bigger picture, you can have more grace with yourself in those down times. You can really learn to appreciate those moments. And both businesses and stories that you just shared with us, I think are testaments to that,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And you've done such a great job of documenting everything on both sides. You're
Yeah.
so smart at
Yeah, I just think it's so important, whether you're sharing it on social media or it's just for you to share at another time. It's so important to have the journey so people can, like, so you can even remember, oh, this is where I started and this is where I am now. And
that.
my roommate, she has a very successful skincare business and they've been in business for, I think, about 6 years now. But she just had this huge party celebration for their success this last weekend, and I was looking at their installations, right? Like where they had their product and stuff. And remembering just 2 years ago, she's here in the living room with these clear glass boxes, super gluing them together and then getting fingerprints all over them. And it's just like to see it go from there to this insane, like amazing thing in 2 years just shows you like you want to remember how far you've come. You want to remember the beginning because sometimes you can get really caught up. And if you're not documenting and you don't have those pictures or videos or people to remind you, you might just be like, wow, yeah, it's just so great. And people will think it's this overnight success, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, they just had money and it just overnight. No, like there is a journey, there is a beginning. And it's so good to like root and ground into the beginning and be and come from that beginner mindset and be that beginner every single day. So yeah, I think the documentation and sharing your story with people, because when you share that story, they see that something's possible for them. They see themselves in your story and they're like, okay, wow. So they didn't have all the money. They bootstrapped this. They just started doing it for free. Then they started one step at a time. They just added a little bit more in there and it got to this point where it takes off. It's like it takes off and it's like wildfire, but it's all these mundane, monotonous, like consistency doing it over and over every single day to get to that place.
I'm thinking about Desi, who's a member in this group, and she started a social media marketing company this year, and we've known each other for a while. But it was like she's told me, seeing my journey over since I started my company in 2018, 2019 was something that inspired her. And I've always just shared openly with her about what it takes. And we just, right when she was getting ready to launch her company, she was telling me like she was kind of nervous about um, using some of what she's learned from me because she didn't want it to be like competitive. And I'm like, no, this is why we do this.
Yeah.
Like, there's no competition, girl. God has for you who he has for you. He has for me who he has for me. Like, what do you want to know?
Yeah.
Like, how can I help you? And I'm able to share that with her because of the documentation. I got to get up and get something. Hold on. Part of it's a prop. It's part of the thing. But just a couple of weeks ago, when I was getting this office put together, I even showed her this,
Uh-huh.
and I said, and this is why documentation is so important. This is 3-ring binder.
Yeah.
This is my 3-ring binder from 2019 and 2020 for my social media agency, and how I would track my clients' content on paper calendars.
Oh my
So I sent
goodness.
her a video and I showed her like, and this is how I was keeping my tasks organized for each client had a tab, and my bookkeeping stuff was in the back, And for me, it's special to be able to share that with her,
Yeah.
and it's like it's special to me too
Mhm.
because my business is in a transition phase right now. I just at 6:30 tonight journaled about where my business is at right now and where I want it to be a year from now. And it was very specific. What's our revenue? How many clients are we serving? How much am I working? What does my current schedule look like? Right? What's the
Mhm.
financials look like? How do I feel about where we're at versus what do I want a year from now? How do I
Mhm.
want to feel? What do I want my schedule? And so that documentation is so important because I know I'm going to journal throughout the year
Yeah.
and I'm gonna be able to look back on that,
Yeah.
and whether it happens in this next year, which I believe it will, or if it's a few years from now, I'll be able to appreciate it so much
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, because you were intentional, right? It's actually setting the intention. Because if we don't set the intention and write it down, we have nothing to look back on to see how far we've come. Like
Yeah,
we're gonna think no matter where we're at, if we're making 100,000, 200, a million, 5 million, we're not gonna think that we've made it. We're not gonna think that we arrived anywhere because we never set the intention or set the number. So we're
yeah,
gonna think that we haven't accomplished anything, that we haven't done what we wanted to do in this life, that we're not reaching our full potential, all these things. But you write it down and you declare it and you look back and then you can see like, oh yeah, I'm where I dreamed to be 5 years, ago.
yeah. My brain is so weird. I just literally thought of what have I also recently documented that's random? Well, my kid's room, okay, was destroyed. Sayla's room was just God, it was so terrible. I think I still have the before pictures. No, I don't. I got rid of them. It was so bad. I took a before picture. You couldn't see her floor. I took a before picture and I never took the after picture, but I cleaned that room and I cleaned it good. And I took the before picture so I could remember how bad it was. And then I could show her when she got home from her play date, hey, this is what I did while you were gone. But I document everything. Like
Yeah.
I try to anyways, because it's good to know. It's like Celia, another example. Let's say you're in a weight loss journey and you don't know what your starting weight is or your starting measurements, or you don't like because you see yourself differently in a mirror versus how you'll see it in a picture.
Yeah.
And so if you don't document what your starting point is, you're gonna get started on a healthy diet and start moving your body, and you're not gonna see the weight on the scale go down for a while. But if you don't know what you look like visually,
Hmm.
you won't see the change because sometimes maybe you don't lose the weight first and or you lose the weight, but whatever. So it's like you've got to document.
Hmm.
And I think that's something that if as a believer, like why did God give so many people who wrote the Bible his inspired word? Because he wanted us to remember things. I think it's
That,
actually part of the human design is to document things, especially um for just remembering more, you
yeah.
know? And anyways, that was a little bit random, but
Great. It's like the documenting and measuring, like knowing where you're at. I had the conversation tonight. I went on a walk and the friend was like, oh, I've been thinking about getting an Apple Watch. Do you like it? And I was like, yes, for these reasons, because if I have a goal of like 10,000 steps a day, then at 6 p.m., if I look and I'm at 9,000, I'm going to go for a walk around the apartment and I'm going to get to that 10,000. If I don't know where my step count is out or at, I'm just going to go to bed. Right.
yeah,
So it's
yep,
like we can get further when we know where we're at. And
yeah,
so I like to like have those measurements and have that documentation to just be like, oh, if I go a little bit further, it's kind of like the people who stop short of the finish line because they
oh,
can't see it, but it's right around the corner. It's like if you just took a few more steps. So it's like if they had only known, like, actually, it's right around, like, right as you turn, you're going to see it. And people speed up to that finish line, right? But so many people stop short of the finish line for that reason. They don't know where it's at. So it's
mm,
good to know where that finish line is on whatever the journey is that you're on.
so good. Love it. This is so good. That's so many one-liners so far. Um, from this is so good. Okay, couple of things, and then we're gonna wrap it up. Repetition equals results. You said
Mhm.
that. Man,
Yeah.
I also love the concept of exponential growth.
Yeah.
Man, I want to figure out, I got to find a video. There's got to be a video on it, but the just the concept of exponential growth and how that can, gosh, it can make or break your business based on if you stop or not.
Yeah, I think when you're starting out with something and you want it to be successful, like it's not a hobby, it's not a like side project or whatever, pick one thing. Like read the book The One Thing by Gary Keller. Pick one thing, go all in on that thing, give it your undivided attention for a period of time. So I will say to people when they're like, well, I just wasn't getting the results. Okay, what if you said, what would my life look like in 1 year from now, if I only focused on this one thing, right? People just don't do it. They will not. They will quit in 2 months. They'll quit in 4 months. They won't give it the year. So if it's something you're really serious about, it's a why that makes you cry, you feel like it's your purpose, it's like your raison d'etre, a reason for being, then give it a year all in. And whatever you have to do to get to that place, and maybe it's you have 2 jobs for a while and you're saving enough money to be able to live for a year going all in on this project, this your baby basically. But really it is for something to be successful because it's 10,000 hours of anything for it to like get to that space. So I would say really focusing and going all in on one thing.
Yeah, so good. Okay, you always have the opportunity to pivot. You teach people how to do retreats, and you were doing retreats, and then there was this thing that happened in 2020 that made people socially distance. Like, how did you pivot? Like you
Yeah.
had a major pivot situation,
Yeah.
and you could have quit because a
Oh,
lot
yeah.
of people in your world
Yeah.
did.
Yes. So 2020, I think I had 27 clients at the time that were all planning their first retreat. We had put down money on an event space. We were doing a big event in June of that year. It was going to be our first like big event. And so we had already put money down for that and started planning that, spent a lot of time planning that. And then we had 4 of our own retreats planned for the year as well. And so, yeah, when that March 2020 happened and everything got canceled, there was no clients. There was and nobody wanted to keep paying their payments or anything either. They obviously either wanted refunds or wanted to stop their payments because they can't host the retreat. So what's the point? And so within 2 weeks, I hosted the first virtual summit called the Recalibrate Summit, helping people recalibrate and get back on track in the new economy. We had CPR, which talked about, are you going to cancel, postpone, or reimagine what you're doing? So that powerful pivot can also look like reimagining. But within 2 weeks, we had our first summit. We had 100 people sign up for it. We had 20 trainers, different speakers and things from all over the world. And it was amazing. And I only planned to actually do that one because I was like, well, we got to generate some kind of income, but we had impact at the forefront. Like that's what we were like, how can we help people that are in distress right now that don't know what to do because the world is falling apart? And so we had impact at the forefront. And then what came from that is about 20 emails after the summit of people saying, you saved my life. I was feeling like committing suicide because I lost my job and I lost my business and I lost my income. And so when I heard that, I was like, well, we can't stop doing these. We're going to do these every week. So every Saturday for about 5 months, we were doing virtual summits where we would have a speaker, we would lead a workout, and we tried to make them feel as in person as possible. So we even were sending meals, like so we could have lunch together, like virtual lunch together, or coffee, like gift cards, like things like that. Whatever we could do to kind of make it a more in-person feel, we were doing that. And then guess what? People wanted to know, how are you hosting virtual retreats, virtual events? And can you teach me and coach me how to do that? So I literally switched my title from retreat coach to virtual retreat coach or virtual events coach. And that's what I started helping people do. We were doing so many summits for other people all over the world, in London, in Australia. I was up in the middle of the night, like helping host these through the night, mental health matters, all kinds of things. And that was the pivot. So it was It was 2 weeks. And I wouldn't even say the summit was in 2 weeks. So I spent about 2 days of, what next? And then was like, the Recalibrate Summit. And I'm getting this, and this speaker. This is my dream list. And we can cap it at 100. Because back then it was when Zoom was like 100. You would have to like pay more for the next thing. And we were figuring out how to do Zoom. Like, isn't that funny, right? Like, how are we doing a workout on Zoom? All this stuff was new then, by the way. No one was doing workouts on Zoom. So yeah, people wanted to know, how are you doing this? Are you recording it? Are you selling the recordings? And we built a community, the Recalibrate Summit like group on Facebook. And and so we did that until we could do in person again.
Wow. I never knew all that. And I know you, girl. Man, you're my hero.
Oh.
I'm just over here thinking about like there has been so many different things that you have done. You even said that at the beginning. You've tried a lot of different things.
Yeah.
What do you feel like your risk, if you could like your, what is it called? Like a risk meter. If you could like meter yourself from like 0 to 100, and like 100 being like you're willing to take every single risk, and 0 you're like, nope, heck to the no, never, never, never. Like, where do you feel like you are? And talk about maybe like there's a lot of people who they just don't try new things. Even a silly social media post, like a reel, they don't even try that because they're afraid of blank. So maybe talk about like that risk factor.
Yeah, I would say our level of success is directly related to the amount of risk that we're willing to take. Plain and simple. That's it. And here's the thing. Things translated over from like my personal life into business. And so I'm an adventure junkie, and I realized that I need to do something basically, like they say, every day that scares you, whether that's sending an email, sending a text message, reaching out, phoning someone, whatever. But I also was doing that in my life, jumping out of airplanes, bungee jumping, hiking insanely high mountains, backpacking and trekking for 7 days, living in a cave for 60 days. Like, I am like willing to do very risky things in life and very challenging things in life. And I will think about that. Like when I was hiking Kilimanjaro, every single step I thought, this is what it takes in business. Like, I'm out of breath. My body feels so weak. It is so hard to keep going. It'd be so easy to quit right now. I could just turn around and go down and get food and be nourished and all these things. But this is like in business, like when things get hard, who are you? Who are you when things get hard? Because I know who I am when things are easy, right? But who am I when things are hard? And so every step, Kilimanjaro, getting to the top of that mountain, I'm like, this is just like business. This is what it's going to feel. And you're going to keep going. So I know my body physically knows how it feels to do hard things.
Yeah.
And so I think because I'm willing to do that kind of stuff outside of business, it just translates. And like right now I'm doing, and I've done this before, a mile a day challenge. I run a mile a day. I think today was 580 in a row. Yes, I run them, not walk. Like I do run them. Otherwise it doesn't count. And there are so many nights where it's like 11:30 p.m. and I'm like, oh, the mile. And I'm already like PJs, like ready for bed. And I'm like, who are you when nobody's watching? Who are you when nobody's watching? Shoes are on, laced up, I'm gone. And I run that mile and nobody knows. Like, right? Like I don't document every single time that I run the mile. Every once in a while I do, but it's like nobody would know. I could easily not do it and nobody would know. Just say I did it, right? But I would know. Yeah. And it's like, am I, as a leader too, I never want to ask somebody to do something I'm not willing to do myself.
Yeah.
So I find these things and I choose to challenge myself on a regular basis with something so I can be reminded that it doesn't matter if my stomach's full, it's raining, I'm tired, I can go run a mile. Like it's 10 minutes. I can go do that. So I think all of that translates over into business. And I would say I even did a blog post once on risk it all. I mean, I've invested really big into different things. I've put all the money down. I've emptied the savings account. I've been like, yo, this has to work because I just emptied everything. There's no other way here. So yeah, I would say having several different successful businesses over the years, it was directly related to the level of risk I was willing to take.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. I could go really far down a rabbit hole on this topic of why people don't take risks. That might have to be a different training for a different day.
Well, if you did your 7 levels deep of why, it would probably be safety.
Yeah.
Survival and safety. Yeah.
Yeah. I think it does. It comes back to that, especially in the last 3 years. I think that people are more risk adverse. They're not willing to take as many risks because we've kind of been put into this major, like, my life could end at any moment of the day because of all of the noise, right? All of the noise. And so, man, that was so good. You're so awesome. We got to wrap it up. I don't know how. Oh, this is so good. I hope that everyone that's watching this is getting so much out of it. I'm over here sitting here like, gosh dang it, why is she not on Ed Milet's podcast? Why is she not on? Why do more people not know about her? And I felt like the Lord just said, not yet. So, but they will. And I also I'm gonna cut this probably from the recording. But he also told me I need to pray for my friends' future husbands, and I just wrote this down. So I've got a few friends that he just dropped on me, and you're one of them. Because I'm thinking about the man of God that he's got coming for you, the couple you guys are going to make. So this is cool. This is awesome. I'm really we're going to church right now. So,
wow.
I'm so grateful to you, and I'm so thankful for our friendship, but you just served this community, and everybody that's going to watch this out there in the world, you just serve people in a really big way. You have such a beautiful story. You've done such an incredible job of preparing it and stewarding the story that you have. And my prayer for you is that you continue to be obedient and telling it and letting it be used for other people's opportunity to become the best versions of themselves in whatever capacity that is. So any final thoughts or words of encouragement to the people in this community that you want to share, and then we'll end it.
Yeah, if anyone just can find my husband. Just kidding. Truly, though, we'll just keep that in there. No, I think it goes back to, and my grandpa always said this too, the never give up. Like, never give up when things get tough, when things get hard, and ask for help. Like, ask for help. Be willing to go to your resources and say, hey, I'm not quite sure about this thing. I could really use some help. And I'm preaching to the choir right here because that is the hardest thing for me to do. I will help anyone and everyone, strangers, friends, family. I will do anything for you. And then I will not ask for help in return. So I'm saying this to you and myself at the same time, but I'm sure you are very resourced, and probably within 1 degree of separation, all the things that you need in your business and your life are there. So ask for help.
That's good. That's so good. Oh, I love you. Well, thank you for coming in and serving the community here. And we're gonna do something again like this really soon. So I'm gonna go ahead and end the live stream. And so again, thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.